As we all know, the Pokemon franchise's catchphrase is gotta catch 'em all. But how are we expected to live up to that when it costs $355 at minimum? Yeah, you heard that right. $355 minimum. As many avid Pokemaniacs found out when Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire released in North America back in March of last year, only 135 of the 386 existing Pocket Monsters were obtainable due to a lack of backwards compatibility with the Game Boy and Game Boy Color Pokemon games, effectively trapping our lovable Kanto and Johto Mons in plastic cartridge prisons. We weren't even sure that the older Pokemon were even coded into Ruby and Sapphire, but it has since been shown that they are in fact in the newest generation of games. With the North American releases of Pokemon Colosseum for the GameCube and Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, the updated versions of the original games which are now playable on Game Boy Advance consoles, as well as the recent release of Pokemon Emerald in Japan, we'll have to wait until next year here in the States, it's finally possible once again to catch 'em all. Well, kind of. You see, Lugia isn't obtainable without an event distribution, and that event hasn't made it to the States yet. Ho-Oh is only obtainable in Pokemon Colosseum, after purifying all 48 Shadow Pokemon and then clearing all 100 trainers in Mount Battle. Luckily, Ho-Oh and Lugia aren't required to get the diploma for completing the National Pokedex. Same thing goes for the event-exclusive Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, and Deoxys. Now what was I saying? Right. Anyway, it's finally possible once again to catch 'em all. But at what cost? Because I've run some calculations, and it turns out that if you want to complete the National Pokedex by yourself with as few consoles as possible, you will need 2 Game Boy Advance consoles, which, thanks to the recent price drop, are only $80 each, as opposed to the previous price of $100 each, a Game Boy Advance link cable for trading, which is about $10, all 5 third-generation Game Boy Advance games, Ruby, Sapphire, Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Emerald, each of which go for between $35 to $40, and finally, most importantly, a whole lot of free time. Because, you see, if you don't want to buy a GameCube and Pokemon Colosseum for an additional combined price of $160, bringing your total up to $515, you'll need to do multiple complete playthroughs of Pokemon Emerald, Fire Red, and Leaf Green, since the roaming legendary beast in Fire Red and Leaf Green depends on the starter Pokemon you chose. In Emerald, things are especially brutal. According to footage from the Japanese version of the game, Professor Birch gives you one of the Johto starters after you complete the Hoenn Pokedex. This means you'd have to complete the Hoenn Pokedex on 3 different Emerald save files, which requires beating the game and catching all the legendary Pokemon. A truly Herculean task, to be sure, so I'd suggest getting your friends to play with you. Or start saving up some cash. If you are willing to get Pokemon Colosseum, things get a bit easier, especially when it comes to the Johto starter Pokemon and the legendary beasts, which you can get all in one save file. But if you choose to go this route, it does add that extra $160 to your total, covering the GameCube console, copy of Colosseum, and a GameCube to Game Boy Advance link cable. In my case, I'm going to try to get some friends to play with me and trade me the version exclusives, because I'm so poor I can't even afford to pay attention. All in all, this decision for the games really brought down my opinion of the franchise that I love so much, and I just hope history isn't doomed to repeat itself.